The April 3rd, City of Norwood Planning Commission. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Present?
Mayor Schneider,
Here. Present.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Present.
Mr. Hockney,
Present.
Mr. Sewer.
Present.
Moving on to item B, approval of the agenda. Have any amendments to the agenda? If none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mrs. Sickinger. Mrs. Town, please call the roll.
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer.
Yes.
Moving on to item C, approval of minutes, March 6th, 2024. Do I have any amendments to the minutes?
No, can I ask a couple questions?
Yes.
So in the minutes, it said that licensing needs to be followed up. Who is following up on that?
Regarding the short-term rentals?
Oh, no, this was on, I'm sorry. This was on, no, it's food trucks. It was on page 7.
March 7th.
I think Mike said that might need to be followed up, need to be followed up in the future, and I was just wondering, where does that fit in this discussion that we're gonna get into today?
Through the chair, do you want me to answer that?
It's in that,
Yes, please
it's in
do.
that upper paragraph, last sentence.
Yes, Mr. Skelly?
I believe what I probably stated at the last meeting was that once we got the authorization from you guys as the planning commission to go ahead, I think several months before that, we were working on draft ordinances for also relating to the licensing of these things. So similar to like short-term rentals, at least what's floating around, we have various drafts. Drafts addressing the zoning ordinance, drafts addressing kind of business licensing. So it's something that could occur.
Okay,
But I say, at least circling back, what you have in front of you right now will definitely address the zoning element of the food truck. Sorry.
okay,
And then the other thing I can say, this morning I did meet the new, I guess, sanitarium was walked around. So as of today, we have a new sanitarium, who I think in the past, we had some issues with regards to enforcement for food trucks, et cetera.
that health department?
Correct.
Board of Health, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Board of Health. Okay,
So it's
well, thank
my
you.
belief
I-
it'll get
That's
addressed.
fine,
Yeah.
So the reference, and I think this was you also, Michael, that reference that there's a state law that says they can't sit any longer than 40 days in the same spot.
That's
Is that-
correct. That's a state health.
Is that both public and private?
Yes, that's any, they cannot sit at any location for 40 days, longer than 40 days.
Okay, and then I thought that I read in here somewhere where we've issued them notifications of that ruling and they haven't moved?
Those would have been issued by the Board of Health, so they wouldn't come directly from the city.
Okay. Board of Health of Hamilton County?
The Board of Health is kind of a quasi-independent governmental entity.
Okay.
So it's the Norwood City Board of Health.
Okay.
But it's not part of the city.
So the 40 days, and again, I did not read that, I did not read the statute, so I don't know if anybody here did read it. What actually happened? Can they move 10 feet? Is that declared not in the same location, or is it?
It's not as clear as that. I would suspect that a court would not look at them moving 10 feet and saying, yeah, you did it.
Okay.
But
You have a lot more background working with the courts than I do, so
I've never done anything like that or handled anything
Okay.
of that nature, so I wouldn't be able to talk directly on it.
I just have one other last question, because it seems like it's pretty important. The whole August moratorium that's been on the vape shops, that's been referenced in the minutes here, and I did not read that ordinance, so I don't. What actually happens in August then?
In August, the moratorium will lift unless there's some intervening action, and it will go back to the way it was.
Okay. So this is just a moratorium on any new applications.
Correct.
Okay.
And the purpose of that is to allow the city an opportunity to research the issue, to come up with any proposed
Do
regulations.
exactly
if
what's
it
being done. Okay.
Yes.
I just didn't know if there was any other specifics in that ordinance with that moratorium that said, and on that date, August 1st, this will happen.
No, there's not.
Okay. That's all I got. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. Any amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mrs. Town, please call the roll.
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer,
Yes.
Moving on to item D, public hearing. Public hearing on ordinance amending Part 11 of the Norwood Planning and Zoning Code relating to mobile food trucks to promote clarity and consistency in policy interpretation and by prohibiting mobile food trucks from locating and operating their business on private property and individual lots and other related changes. Anyone to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Seeing none. Anyone to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Moving on to item D2, opportunity for discussion from the commission members. Mr. Sewer?
Can we, and I don't know what we do with Dan Bly's comments, you know, he is a representative of the building department. I didn't, and again, I looked back on the comments and then looked at the ordinance, and I don't know if anybody's had conversations with Dan about these, that we could actually walk through them and say, we don't believe they're substantial, we don't think we should incorporate. In other words, they've not been incorporated since last month.
They have not.
Last month is exactly the same as this month, and Dan Bly's comments are standing by themselves right now. I'm just curious, what do we do with them, Noah?
Well, when I look at the proposed ordinance and what we've been working toward, and I look at Dan Bly's comments, you know, they're kind of diametrically opposed. I am in favor personally of continuing on with the ordinance as we have it.
So that you have looked at Dan Bly's, and that you've answered my question then. You have gone down point by point. Okay. I mean, a couple of them, I didn't understand why it was a big deal, the word blight. But I guess in his second to last paragraph, I think he was making a proposal that there be two options. I don't know if you want to just take a minute and just talk through that, but it looked like it might be a reasonable approach that he's saying, should we be taking the approach to try to designate location where it's acceptable? And then in a non-designated area, allow 1 day maximum. That would be your special events, Mike, which you do have included. I understand that.
I'm not sure. I read that, and I understand what he's implying. And I don't know how it's enforceable. So we're going to designate on private property that they can have a food truck there, but then on other properties, we're going to state they can't have a food truck there. So how do you specifically designate each of those areas? And that's as I looked at that, I was like, I'm not sure how the city enforces something like that. I can see where the city can say, you know what, nightly, that vehicles need to be moved, garaged, or put someplace they cannot stay in the same location over the nighttime. But I don't see how the city would have any capability of designating this is a food truck only area and this is not, because they're on private property right now. And I understand his thought process on that, but I don't understand how you would enforce it, how you would actually do that.
Okay.
Do you have, I mean, as you read it, did you think like, oh yeah, we could do that, and that might be
I actually
better.
read that and I said, office building. But all of our office buildings are relatively close to other brick and mortar stores. You know, I'm just trying to figure out what was on his mind and, because I agree with you, Vic, it's very hard, but I understood where the offices are. And again, I think everybody here who's worked in an office reasonably has food truck day, you know, which everybody loves.
Yeah.
But the way we're moving forward, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, was there a way to make that happen? And because hopefully these office buildings get full again. And food truck day is a nice day.
Well, and in an instance where a specific office building wants to have one come in, there's a provision in the ordinance as we've got it written for a special event permit that you can come in and have that approved.
Okay. All right. No, it's,
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's important, the very first part of this talks about, you know, that Ohio Revised Code authorizes cities to regulate and restrict the location and use of buildings and structures, their height, bulk percentage of lot occupancy, setback of building lines, areas of yards, courts, and other open spaces, creation of zoning districts. I understand that that's an important part of what the city's capabilities are. With what we have ran into with these mobile food trucks is they just get planted into a place. There's no zoning, no real regulation that the city has any control over. That's a problem. When you plant it, when you say this is where it's going to be every day for the next 365 days, that truck's going to be sitting there. That's a problem. Mobile, I don't think anybody on this board has any problem with mobile food trucks. And they absolutely, you know, we've seen through COVID and we've seen through times with the offices. It's a great opportunity to provide food. Great. Continue that because that was your business MO. When you started that mobile food truck that has an engine and has wheels and has brakes and moves on, that's the MO of your business. We're going to be moving around and sell our products to different individuals. When they say, you know what, I don't really even have to worry about fixing my engine or this thing running or having brakes or when they plant it, that's a problem. That's what we're trying to regulate here. It's not a mobile food operation.
okay. I'm not in disagreement. I agree. It's in the definition. And I guess this is a follow-up question, but I saw in the meeting minutes. If we leave this as it is, on day 39, and the city issues a notice that somebody's been parked 39 days, how is that, how is it going to be enforced as you move into the future? I'm just trying to figure out from a city standpoint, I agree with enforcing. On zoning, I've always tried to say, how is this going to be enforced with the people we have in place right now? And I understand it's state statute. I don't know what that, I'm not an attorney, Helen. I don't know what that means. Can you hook up a tow truck? I don't know.
Well, may
Go
I answer
ahead.
that?
Yes.
Our Board of Health has went through a transition with the sanitarian. Now we have a sanitarian in place. I would think that at that time, they would pull their license. They wouldn't have the license to provide food after that point. Now, Tim Gary's with the law department's here. I would think that once you do that, I'm sorry, you're closed down. That we go in and close down a restaurant if they have unsanitary conditions. The sanitarian goes in and closes it down and puts a stamp on the front door that says, sorry, this operation's closed for now. So I would think that would be the course of action that would be taken.
I see that, but again, I don't frequent these every week, but I go enough that they're usually not dirty. They're usually pretty clean establishments. So I think that they're going to be shut down strictly because of the 39 days.
Yeah, we're not talking about clean or dirty. I'm giving you for reference
No.
that this is how the sanitarian and our health department can protect our public health.
Okay.
Part of protecting our public health is looking at this saying, you're not allowed to post up. You're not allowed to be here more than those days. We pull your permit.
Got it.
You're done.
I think that. I'm going to ask one last question. The ordinance is written today. Do you feel like it? Again, I know that permanent electric's been an issue, mainly because of people not moving. I get it. You know, that they don't want to have temporary. And IBI, I would assume, has to inspect a permanent installation, but will you allow an installation that has a disconnect so that they can come back and hook back up?
On a recurring basis.
Yes.
This wouldn't allow it for the primary reason that they would not be allowed to regularly operate on any private lot.
Okay. That was in here? You believe that was written to where, and I'm just think of the ones that we have right now. So they would hook up a permanent setup, just like you do for a festival. And you have all appropriate disconnects, passes IBI, and they leave, because they have to at 39th day. And they go to another location out in Westchester, and then they come back, and they hook back up for 39 more days. I don't think this keeps them from doing that.
Well, if you
Yeah, help me
look
out.
at section 3,
Got it?
item C, no mobile food truck, cart, trailer, or similar vendor shall be permitted to conduct business or commercially operate on any private or public lot or property.
Okay, so I think what you're saying, that 40 days doesn't even
It
come into play for that.
not when we're talking about a public or a private lot. So what this ordinance does is they have to operate from the street.
So, again, and I think Vic said this in the meeting minutes, the way this is written, it's gonna go to council if we all approve it, because basically it needs to be known that food trucks on those lots have to go.
They would have to move, that's correct.
Okay, I just wanna make sure as I read things, I wanna make sure I'm understanding what we're saying as we approve an ordinance. Okay.
Any other discussion, questions, comments? Yes.
And yes, I think it'll be an interesting conversation when you have the 7 city council members discussing this and understanding that's in essence what will happen. Now, you could say, what's it matter? Nobody cares about those food trucks. But as the mayor, I can tell you, I get complaints about the food trucks. And whether they're food truck complaints about the food that's actually being served or just the look of them in our community, those are still complaints that have to be recognized. So, it's a part of it. And I think it does go to council and they have a discussion on it. And they're the elected officials that can make a decision on this and move from there.
Well, I think everybody knows I'm pro-business. I mean, one part of me says exactly what you said. If a gas station has a private lot that he's paying, that's his lot, and he can stimulate his income by having a food truck and does everything according to Ohio law, which is the 39 days. It's the businessman in me saying, what's wrong with that? And I've been struggling with this since last meeting, and you did tip it off in your meeting minutes with your comments saying it will be the right thing for council to discuss, because 7 of them are going to have different opinions and see where they end up.
Well, I would, kind of my comment back on that would be that the 39 days has not worked. Those food trucks have been there at those same locations, month after month, year after year.
I'm not going to
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
disagree.
I would also say variety is the spice of life. Shouldn't that businessman say, you know what, let's move this one out of here and we'll get a different one in here? And which they can do. They could do those things. So
That's what you're saying though, right? If they had the electric hookups there that were permanent, they would be able to rotate them around.
well, it's temporary wiring.
Well, these guys, they need more power than an extension cord out of a gas station. I mean, that's the reality of why they came for the application. But I understand it. I'm just torn between business, pro-business, and, I mean, we've talked a lot about the brick and mortar guys, and they've invested a ton of money. So I get it. I mean, this is not an easy one. At least it's not for me. Plus the food's good. Or you can strike that. Don't put that in.
Right.
That's all I have, Noah. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that the planning commission recommend sending this ordinance on to city council, proposed zoning ordinance text amendment. Wait, is that the right one? Yes.
Sending it on to council as an endorsement or for them to?
As an endorsement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Sewer. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes.
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer,
Yes.
Motion passes.
No, and I hate to do this to you ever. Can you clarify what an endorsement versus then a submittal for a public? I mean, we're submitting this to council as an ordinance, proposed
Yes.
ordinance. Is that what the endorsement means?
The endorsement is that we are sending this as a recommendation to city council.
Okay, we're endorsing this. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Mayor?
So with that clarification, are there, I look at it and say, okay, are there planning commission members recognizing that, saying, I don't know that I would have voted yes on that?
Mr. Sewer?
No, I'm okay. Like I said, this was not an easy one. These shouldn't be all easy. I think this one, it is an interesting, it's a change in the way we serve people. I mean, you know, the mobile business didn't really operate 20 years ago. So it's somewhat new. But it's got to fit with the people who have invested. Vic's only been saying this for 6 months, you know, and that's the part that I'm struggling with. So I'd like to find that balance to where it's fairness for everyone. And hopefully this is close to that. And I think it's going to be some endorsement or enforcement issues. Thank you. But I think that if it's important enough, that should be okay.
Mr. Mayor?
I'd just like to point out the fact that city council meetings that happen Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday, get much more attention, there's many more people that watch what happens at a city council meeting. So you have 7 representatives of the community that will take a look at this. And they may have one reading. They'll normally, on something like this isn't going to pass with an emergency clause. So they're going to have one reading. It's going to be on the agenda, going to have one reading, go 2 more weeks. Then there will be another meeting, and they'll discuss it again, and it'll be on the agenda. They might have the second reading. Then it'll go 2 more weeks. So it's a long process where it's reviewed on the city council level. You know, you look at the planning commission meetings, and we've got a huge audience out here, and we thank all of you for coming. But quite frankly, this is the way it's supposed to work. The planning commission is, and if it doesn't make it past us, it hasn't made it past the smell test, but then it needs to go to city council, and city council discusses it, and the people that are proponents for these changes would potentially come and talk to city council members, or just talk to city council members. And the people who are opponents of it would say, don't do this. This is the wrong move. So it's in my opinion, it's the right way for us to endorse it, to move it forward, and then let it get hashed out a little bit further down with, I'll say, a lot more people than just the 4 or 5 of us.
And city council can always send it back to you guys.
Mr. Skelly?
Just to add to maybe some relief or put you at ease. So I've been involved in this, Chair Powers, Mark Reeves, I believe, and Gary, like at least a few months after when I was hired. So now approaching 3 years, discussions with counselors about this. So this has been something that's been, tossed around quite a bit through various discussions and edited and looked at. So it's something that's definitely not, rammed through the process. So there's been many actors involved. Granted, we didn't have kind of any public outreach to various business, but nor have I heard any emails or phone calls specifically about this. I don't know about the building department, but I think it's definitely been a thoughtful process. It's been a very lengthy process. And the word endorsement is more that this body cannot approve it. We provide our recommendations, we provide some insight, and we say, hey, we think we're done with it, and now moving on to council for consideration.
So after the 3 readings, and I will let this go, as the 3 readings occur, this, and I'll call it a sample ordinance, can it be modified by council?
Sure.
It can, yes.
So it goes to a second reading as modified. Is that what you were implying, Vic?
If they modify it.
If they modify it. So would we ever see the final before it becomes an ordinance?
No.
No.
Okay, so we're endorsing this document, and it could come out of council looking very different.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
As amended.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, I've endorsed it. I'm not, no, I know it sounded like I'm totally against what we're doing.
Moving on to item E, new business. We have no new business today. Moving on to item F, old business, discussion on vape shops. We had a presentation from Mr. Skelly at our last meeting. Are there any additional comments from Mr. Skelly, directions we would like him to go, things we would like him to explore, or discussion we'd like to have amongst ourselves?
When does the moratorium lift?
I believe that should be.
I believe that is August.
10th. You just give me 2 seconds and I'll give you the definite date. Yes, August 10th.
Why don't we take between now and, say, 2 weeks from today to send comments to Mr. Skelly to put together another draft ordinance to bring to us at our next commission meeting? Does that sound like a plan to everyone?
Yes.
I'd like that.
Great.
Still have a question on that as far as addressing the CBD and the THC shops to go along with the vape shop. That just, I'm already seeing up on Montgomery Road, if you look at the vape shop up there, all the banners out front promote that they're selling CBD now. So that's, the whole issue brought up last time is that, here we go, the CBD is going to be taken over. It's going to be in every gas station around here if we allow it. Everyone's going to be a vape shop depending on what percentage of what they do of their business is going to be vape or CBD oils, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I really feel it needs to be addressed in any ordinance we come up with, or a co-ordinance hitting just that.
I think probably doing that in a separate but similar looking ordinance would probably be the best route to do that, to kind of keep it to a single issue. But I agree with you. I think that's worthwhile for us to take a look at. Any further discussion? Hearing none, moving on to item G, excuse absent members. We have no absent members today, so I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Town, please call the roll.
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer.
Yes.